The magnificent dance of nature begins on the migration routes of living things. The sky, the seas, and the land come together in the fascinating symphony of nature. There is a unique journey on this huge stage that continues for thousands of years. Migrations of living things turn into an epic story that completes the cycle of life. Migration is not only a strategy to go from one place to another, but also to survive, reproduce and evolve. Birds spreading their wings, whales breaking ocean waves, and predators leaving their mark on the terrestrial world. They are all immigrants. They all take their place in this unique journey. Stories that take place along nature's migration routes. From the stories of birds traveling thousands of kilometers to the adventures of giant whales traveling in the deep oceans, you will watch through the eyes of wild animals passing through the changing faces of the land masses. Migration routes of living beings are not only a physical journey, but also a struggle against the difficulties of life and a symbol of endurance. This documentary offers an exploration of the adaptation abilities of living things, their resistance to harsh conditions, and their struggle for existence through nature's magnificent migrations. In the mysterious world of deep blue waters, the social behavior of schools of fish turns into a complex dance that fascinates the audience. These underwater communities come together not only to feed, but also to interact with each other, communicate, and collectively survive. One of the most distinctive features of fish schools is their tremendous harmony of movements. Thousands of individuals swim in dazzling harmony, acting as if they were part of a single organism. This movement harmony aims to surprise predators and strengthen defense mechanisms by increasing trust among individuals within the herd. Some fish species communicate through changes in body colors and patterns. This is used to convey information to other individuals within the flock, such as danger, finding food, or finding a mate. Color changes may also occur for purposes such as establishing social hierarchy among fish or indicating mating season. Fish have a variety of sensory organs and use these organs for communication within the flock. They interact with each other by sensing electric fields, feeling vibrations, or sending chemical signals. This can be used for location detection, danger warning and mating between individuals within the herd. Hierarchical structures are often observed in fish schools. Interestingly, leadership roles may change over time, increasing the complexity of social interactions among individuals within the herd. In some species, distinct gender roles and mating rituals can also be seen. In the depths of the seas and rivers, perhaps the most exciting chapter of fishes' lives begins: migration season. These epic year-round journeys are important not only for survival, but also for reproducing, feeding and evolving. Many fish species undertake large journeys from coastal areas to the oceans to complete their reproductive cycles. During this journey, fish frequently encounter factors such as changing water temperatures, currents and food sources. Fish often return to coastal areas during breeding periods. During this period, males and females look for suitable environments to mate and lay eggs. During breeding migrations, some fish may change colors and exhibit various behaviors. Some fish travel significant distances in inland waters for breeding or feeding purposes. During these migrations, they must go against the difficult currents of the rivers and overcome various obstacles. This situation can turn into an adventure that tests the physical endurance of the fish. Some fish travel long distances during migration to reach dense food sources. This allows them to store energy and help them access resources needed for reproduction or other vital activities. Fish migrations are fraught with a number of dangers. Factors such as natural predators, changing water conditions, and human interactions are just a few of the challenges fish face during their epic journeys. Migration seasons of fish are of critical importance not only for their survival, but also for maintaining the balance of ecosystems. These massive underwater migrations form a magnificent dance of nature and represent an integral part of the life cycle of fish. Different fish species undertake seasonal migrations at different stages of their life cycles and for various reasons. Salmon are generally born in freshwater rivers, but they also have a marine growth phase. During the breeding season, salmon often make large migrations to the ocean. Then, for breeding purposes, they ascend the rivers and build their nests. This migration forms a key part of the salmon life cycle. While salmon generally feed in the sea, they migrate to fresh water during breeding periods. They make large migrations towards the inner parts of rivers to lay eggs. This migration may be repeated until the salmon's juveniles grow up in the sea. Trout, like salmon, are fish that live in both freshwater and saltwater. During breeding seasons, trout often migrate into river and stream systems. However, some trout species can switch between sea and freshwater migrations. During breeding seasons, trout often migrate to river and stream systems. However, some species may remain in the pond to breed. Bluefin tunas are fish that live in warm waters and make large oceanic migrations. They usually breed in warm climatic regions, but can migrate to cold waters. Their migration usually occurs for hunting and breeding purposes. They often follow cold water currents to feed. They can migrate to warm climate regions during breeding periods. Cod are fish that generally prefer cold waters. During breeding periods, cod often migrate from deep-sea regions to the coast. This migration allows cod to gather in large groups and mate in breeding grounds. Cod generally live in deep seas, but migrate to shallow coastal areas during breeding periods. This migration allows cod to gather in large groups to breeding grounds and mate. Wild tuna are migratory fish that usually hunt and breed in warm climate regions. They migrate to warm seas and often find food sources by following cold water currents. They may migrate to shallower waters for breeding. They usually head to shallow waters for breeding. The seasonal migration route of each fish species varies depending on the species' biological characteristics, habitat and feeding habits. These migrations are important for the sustainability of fish populations and ecosystem balance. Cranes are an anadromous fish species that originates primarily in the Sargasso Sea and lives in European inland waters. As larvae, young cranes make a long-distance migration from the Atlantic Ocean to European rivers. Young cranes feed in fresh water, while larvae and young individuals feed on other creatures living in rivers and ponds. They generally consume marine organisms when they migrate to the sea. When they reach breeding season, cranes usually return to the Sargasso Sea. This remote offshore area is the main breeding ground for cranes, which they use to lay eggs and lay their larvae. Horse mackerel is a type of fish that migrates depending on the seasons and water temperatures. During the cold winter months, horse mackerel generally migrate from north to south following warm water currents. This migration takes place in order to follow food sources and reach warmer waters. Horse mackerel generally feed in the surface waters of the oceans. They prey on organisms such as high amounts of plankton, small fish and krill. Horse mackerel generally roam in shallow waters close to coastal areas to feed. The breeding season of horse mackerel generally occurs in spring and summer. During this period, horse mackerel usually approach coastal areas and choose suitable areas for spawning. They complete the breeding process by laying their eggs on coastal beaches or vegetation, usually in shallow waters. Protective instincts and flock migration in fish reflect a complex behavioral pattern that includes biological advantages and evolutionary reasons. These behaviors are related to fish's strategies for survival, reproduction and maintaining their genetic inheritance. Migration in schools gives fish the advantage of moving together. Forming a flock allows individuals to protect themselves from predators and increase their defense mechanisms against attack. Large herds increase individuals' chances of survival by making them more difficult to single out by predators. It also allows fish to use their feeding areas more effectively and save energy. By grouping together, individuals within a herd can track food sources more effectively, providing a more energy-efficient feeding strategy. Migration in flocks can increase reproductive success. Gathering in flocks during breeding seasons can increase their chances of mating. At the same time, migrating en masse to suitable locations for laying eggs and raising fry can help protect young fish from natural hazards. Mass migration facilitates the transfer of information between individuals. The discovery of a food source or safe breeding area by an individual can spread quickly throughout the herd. It also enables the transfer of information from generation to generation through social learning between individuals within the herd. The social hierarchy formed among individuals within the herd allows herd leaders to be determined and direct the herd. These leaders play an important role in protecting the herd from danger and effectively guiding it to feeding areas. These biological reasons show that it is an evolutionary advantage for fish to migrate in schools. This behavior helps fish maintain balance in their ecosystem and the long-term survival of their species. The migration from rivers to oceans can be a difficult journey for many aquatic creatures. This journey involves many species coping with natural obstacles, surviving and reproducing. Some fish species use water currents to move from rivers to the ocean. Currents allow fish to save energy and move faster. In this way, they can deal with natural obstacles more effectively. Rivers often have water outlets that flow into the sea. These points allow fish to move from the river system to the ocean. Water outlets can help fish overcome large obstacles by providing a natural travel route. Fish ladders and ponds built by humans can help fish use their natural migration routes. These structures have crossing points that allow them to pass through dams and other water structures. Such infrastructures help fish cope with natural obstacles. Many fish that migrate from rivers to the ocean can adapt to changing salinity and temperature levels. These adaptations help fish quickly adapt to changing conditions in the aquatic environment and survive during their migratory journeys. During their migration journey, fish activate defense mechanisms against natural enemies. These defense mechanisms include camouflage, fast escape abilities and swarming strategies. Strategies to cope with natural obstacles enable fish to successfully complete their migratory journey. However, artificial barriers caused by human activities, especially structures such as dams and highways, can negatively affect these natural migrations and pose a threat to the sustainability of species. Therefore, it is of great importance to protect aquatic ecosystems and ensure unobstructed migration routes. Climate change may cause an increase in water temperatures. This can affect the feeding, reproductive and migratory behavior of fish. Some species may change their migration routes or breeding grounds to adapt to temperature changes. Changes in water properties such as sea currents and thermoclines can affect fish migration routes. Fish may change their migratory behavior to adapt to these changes or to follow new bodies of water. For example, stingray fish are among the species that can adapt to temperature changes. Stingrays regulate their feeding and reproductive behavior under the influence of water temperature. Their adaptations to temperature changes help their species survive by affecting their habitats and feeding habits. In this way, stingray fish can survive in various water conditions. Climate change can affect the amount and distribution of nutrient resources in marine ecosystems. This may require fish to migrate, pursue different food sources, or change their feeding habits. Cetacean migrations are complex and diverse movements seen in many different species. These migrations often depend on factors such as nutrition, reproduction, climate changes or seasonal changes. Dolphin migrations do not generally cover large distances like other marine mammals. Dolphins generally live in coastal waters and shallow waters, so they do not undertake long-distance migrations across vast oceans. However, some dolphin species may migrate in certain seasons or for certain reasons. They may make regional changes depending on food sources or social factors within the herd. Orcas generally live in very large areas and do not migrate. However, certain populations may migrate during some seasons. For example, orcas living in Alaska migrate to cold waters in the spring and summer months and feed on salmon. They can move to various underwater areas for hunting. They may be found more densely in certain areas by tracking their prey and exploiting local food resources. They can move to certain areas for breeding and raising their young. This can often occur in shallower waters or sheltered bays. Sailfish live in warm climates and do not generally migrate. However, they may migrate from time to time, following food sources. Sailfish feed primarily by following schools of plankton. Seals and other marine mammals often migrate depending on factors such as feeding, reproduction and climate changes. Many seal species migrate to certain areas for the purpose of breeding and raising their young. These migrations usually occur annually. For example, gray seals may migrate to certain coastal areas to give birth and nurse. Marine mammals can migrate in response to changes in food sources. Particularly whale species can make feeding migrations between cold and warm sea currents. Whales can roam large areas of ocean to access essential food sources such as plankton and fish. Some marine mammals may migrate to stay in warmer waters during the cold winter months. For example, Greenland seals may migrate from the polar regions to seas further south in winter. Manatees can migrate, mostly based on their need for food sources. Manatees can migrate to reach food sources, usually located in coastal areas. Sea lions may migrate to certain areas for feeding and breeding purposes. For example, California sea lions may prefer certain coastal areas for breeding and giving birth. Migrations of large marine mammals are generally for feeding and breeding purposes. Migration routes can vary depending on a variety of factors, including water temperatures, sea currents, food sources and climate changes. These migrations are critical to maintaining the balance of marine ecosystems and protecting populations. Egg-laying migrations of sea turtles refer to the long-distance journeys these creatures undertake annually. These migrations involve female sea turtles traveling from feeding areas to spawning beaches. They experience an alternation between feeding and spawning periods. While they generally roam the oceans during feeding periods, they head to the seas close to land when they approach the spawning period. Female turtles travel thousands of kilometers during their spawning migrations. Each species remains loyal to a particular spawning beach. For example, green sea turtles migrate to the coast of Brazil in the Atlantic Ocean, and leatherbacks migrate to the coast of Indonesia in the Pacific Ocean. When female turtles arrive at spawning beaches, they usually come onto the beach at night. They choose a suitable area on the beach, dig a nest with their tail and hind fins and lay their eggs. Each female lays her eggs, usually all at once, and then returns to the sea. After laying eggs, female turtles carefully close their nests and return to the sea. The eggs in the nest begin the incubation period. The incubation period varies from species to species but usually lasts from a few weeks to a few months. The hatched chicks leave their nests on the beach and head towards the sea. During this period, the hatchlings usually carry out this migration at night in order to be protected from natural enemies and to reach the sea safely. Male turtles may also migrate between feeding and breeding areas from time to time. However, Spawning migrations of female turtles are generally more distinct and regular. These spawning migrations constitute a critical phase of the sea turtle life cycle. However, the threats they face during these migrations include factors such as loss of suitable land for beach development, hunting, black light pollution, and climate change. Therefore, conservation efforts and sustainable management strategies are of great importance for the survival of sea turtles and the maintenance of their populations. Tunas are fish that generally migrate over wide areas in the oceans. Tunas can migrate to certain areas to spawn. Female tuna generally prefer certain temperature and water depth conditions for spawning. The offspring then grow in these areas. Hunting, they may migrate to certain regions for this purpose. Abundance of food sources can cause tuna to become concentrated in a particular area. They can migrate to adapt to seasonal changes. For example, tuna fish may move from one region to another as temperatures change. How fish find their migration path is often related to a variety of factors, and this process involves a complex combination. The ability of fish to find migration routes using magnetic fields is achieved thanks to ferromagnetic crystals located in a special organ in their inner ear. This organ is called magnetoreceptor, or magnetic sensor. Ferromagnetic crystals located in a structure in the inner ears of fish react to magnetic fields. These crystals help the fish determine its location relative to magnetic fields on Earth. Magnetoreceptors located in the inner ears of fish are very sensitive to magnetic fields. These organs sense and respond to changes in the fish's magnetic field around the world. Fish's magnetic senses can serve as a kind of magnetic map for species living in a particular area. Additionally, Pisces' past experiences and learning abilities may be important in creating and using this map. Especially during critical life stages such as reproduction and feeding, fish can increase their sensitivity to magnetic fields. For example, the influence of magnetic fields may become evident during egg laying or the raising of young in some species. Magnetic fields are a natural feature that exists everywhere on the Earth's surface. These fields come from magnetic fields originating from the Earth's core and geomagnetic fields formed in the atmosphere by the effect of the solar wind. Fish's perception of these magnetic fields often helps them find migration routes, breeding grounds, and food sources. Fish's use of sun and moon light to find their migration routes is an important factor for most fish species. Fish can determine their location by using these lights in a number of ways. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west during the day. Pisces can determine the east-west direction by following the movement of the sun. This can help them target a specific direction and determine their migration route. The moon is one of the brightest sources of light in the night sky. Pisces can also determine their direction at night by using the position of the moon. The change of east and west directions of the moon can help Pisces determine their orientation. Sun and moon light can reflect on the water surface and create distinctive images. Using these reflections, fish can detect and manipulate objects on the upper surface of the water. The ability of fish to use these light sources can often vary depending on the fish species and the aquatic environment in which they live. Especially important life events of fish such as hunting, reproduction, and migration can depend on these natural light sources. This may be an important adaptation in how fish adapt to seasonal and environmental changes when determining their migration routes. Fish can migrate to specific habitats by sensing water temperature and salinity. In particular, breeding and feeding areas may have certain characteristics in terms of water conditions. Apart from this, they can migrate at certain routes and speeds using ocean currents. Following the currents saves energy. Many fish can follow certain migration routes with innate instincts. These instincts can often be more pronounced at a particular life stage, such as during the reproductive period. Some fish species can gain experience by learning migration routes. Fish in a particular area can develop their migration routes using the knowledge they have acquired throughout their lives. From freshwater to saltwater and from saltwater to freshwater is a natural behavior that is vital for many aquatic organisms. These migrations occur for various purposes as part of the life cycle of living things. Many fish species migrate from fresh waters to the seas for breeding purposes. This type of migration is called anadromous migration. Salmon can be given as an example. Salmon migrate to freshwater to spawn and raise their young in rivers. The European eel, on the other hand, lives and grows in fresh waters but migrates to the seas to reproduce. This type of migration is called catadromic migration. Some fish migrate from the sea into ponds or river systems. These migrations are called potamodromous migration. For example, the pike is a potamodromous fish species that migrates from sea to fresh water. Some fish can migrate both from sea to river and from rivers to sea at different stages of their life cycle. This type of migration is called diadromous migration. Mirror carp can be given as an example. Migrations enable living things to reach suitable environmental conditions, gain access to breeding grounds, and complete their life cycles. However, factors such as human activities, water pollution, dam construction, water use and climate change can negatively impact these migrations and threaten the sustainability of populations. Therefore, protecting aquatic ecosystems and ensuring unobstructed migration routes are important for aquatic creatures to survive. Many different species survive by migrating in different ways. Some species of jellyfish migrate using water currents. Jellyfish, which especially head to areas where plankton is dense, can travel long distances in search of food. Whale sharks migrate across large areas of the oceans. Their annual migration routes may vary depending on their needs for feeding grounds and breeding grounds. Marine corals can migrate in response to changes in water temperature, light levels, and food sources. They can move from one place to another, especially depending on changes in water conditions. Don't forget to subscribe for brand new documentaries and more scientific content.